A very timely podcast. I'm gonna try to reel myself in before I turn into Alex Jones in this episode.
I know this is a Scottish story, but I feel like it's our story. I'm
I'm
adopting
adopting it.
this story.
I'm adopting this as America's story right
Exactly.
now. So
Yeah.
be ready.
Even though it's an Australian pretending to be a Scottish guy, I'm gonna say this is an American story now.
But technically, Mel Gibson was born in New York.
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
Look at you dropping the facts already. All right, save it for the podcast. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Nightcap, guys. How you doing?
Oh, welcome back, guys.
Back.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Cheers to freedom.
Cheers to freedom, man. Very contentious time right now in politics. We won't get into it, but
We'll get into it.
timely. What's up, guys? What are you guys drinking tonight?
I am drinking mango hef, Cali Squeeze.
Mango hef, Jesus.
Yeah,
I
pretty
am drinking Carl Strauss Wreck Alley.
Oh, there we go. There's a man's drink. Drinking a little
Jesus.
scotch. You know, not
Okay. An honor.
not William Wallace. Oh man, fought for our freedom so we could have some decent whiskey.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this movie we're about to get into. Braveheart, 1995. Man, this movie.
Love it.
It's an older film, but man, legendary, right?
It is, man.
Yeah.
It's ingrained in culture now.
It really is. It's part of it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know,
You can still go to Halloween stores and get a Mel Gibson Braveheart Halloween costume.
Well, not even that. It's so ingrained in culture. It's memes.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
memes.
it's
Exactly.
memes now. So that's how ingrained in culture it is. It's a meme.
Yeah.
Once you become a meme, you made it.
you
made it
fall
into
into
the
that
cloud. You're
American
never
like,
going away.
mythology where you'll never be forgotten because there'll be somebody texting somebody else and be like, hold on, I know what I want to say. You know what I mean? Hit that send button. As soon as you see that half blue face, you know what it's about, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you see anybody fighting for
Exactly.
freedom, all right? And just in that the long drawn out yell, like something about being American just resonates in our stomach. You know what I mean?
Love this movie and very timely. Like you
It's a
said,
great
very
movie.
timely.
Well, you
Can't
know,
wait.
I think this is we're probably going to be gushing over this movie, so it's going to be a long podcast. Let me go ahead and jump into the synopsis, and then we'll hop into the review.
Let's go.
Pull up the notes
right.
here. All right, so Braveheart is a 1995 American epic historical fiction war film directed and co-produced by Mel Gibson, who portrays William Wallace, a late 13th century Scottish warrior. The film depicts the life of Wallace leading the Scots in the First War of Scottish Independence against King Edward I of England. The film also stars Sophie Marceau, Patrick McGowan, if I'm saying his name right there, and Catherine McCormick. The story is inspired by Blind Harry's 15th century epic poem, The Acts and Deeds and Illuster of the valiant champion Sir William Wallace. And it was adapted for screenplay, or for the screen, I should say, by Randall Wallace. The film came out.
No relation?
I actually believe he actually is a distant relative, actually.
Oh,
Really?
there you go.
The budget for the film, and granted, this is 1995, 65 to 70 million dollars.
Wow.
In 95? That's a lot of
And
money.
the box office was 213 million. So it did
Nice.
well.
Nice.
It won a bunch of awards here. Let me see if I can pull these up here. It got
It won
nominated
Best Picture, right?
It got nominated for 10 Academy Awards. That's
Best
pretty
Director.
incredible. Won 5, including Best Picture, Best Director,
Nice.
Best Cinematography, Best Makeup, and Best Sound Editing. There
Hell
was
yeah.
a spin-off sequel, which we were talking about a little bit off before we started here. Robert the Bruce was released in 2019, but I actually haven't seen it. So, and I'm
Me neither.
it wasn't
Me
as
neither,
rated
because-
as highly.
Me neither, because fuck that guy. There, I said it.
Well, let's talk about this plot, this story here. William
Do
Wallace.
it. Do it.
Al, go ahead, take it away. What do you have here as far as the story itself?
Well, the story itself is like, first, let me get the score out the way. 10 out of 10. All right. 10 out of 10. The plot was anything about, freedom, standing up for what's right. I'm giving it a high score. All right. And William Wallace, freedom, Scotland. And pretty much, it all started pretty much with Prima Nocta. All right.
Well, that'll start a fight. You want to start a fight?
That'll start a
real
fight.
You want to
quick.
start a war. That's how you're going to do
It
it.
pretty much started with Prima Nocta.
Hey, come here. I'm going to sleep with your wife. You can't do anything about it.
I don't know if you looked it up. Is there any historical basis in this?
Nah.
Or
Well,
Or
we
was
actually
this
did look
really-
it up. Prima Nocta was real, but as far as I could tell, it was never actually enacted because of the
Mm.
very reason that you'd basically piss off everybody. So,
You
yeah,
start a
because
war.
like
yeah.
imagine if this was like really like widespread, especially if imagine if it's still going on now. I'd be crashing weddings in a 25-mile radius. All right.
Yeah.
Like, I've come to enact my claim of prima nocta.
We'd all be
All
running
right.
for office, is what you're saying. Just for the perks.
But yeah, the plot was it was what it was, man. It's the freedom
what it
for
was, it is what
Scotland.
it is.
Yeah.
Can't
Prima
go
nocta is what it is, guys. All right.
Shakespeare. Rich, help Al out right now. He's drinking his mango.
All right, we're gonna. That mango must be strong. I mean, for a plot, I give it a 9. It was solid. I mean, it follows the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, you know, I nerd out on that guy. It followed his path well, and I think that's what the emotional drawing on top of the acting, the way the plot moved from, you know, a little boy and life is cruel all the way up into, you know, freedom to the end. He moved the story so well where yes, it's a long movie, 3-hour movie, but if you cut some things out, it would have taken away from the story itself. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
For it being long, it was very well done. Because 3 hours, that's even a long time for me. Lord of the Rings was 3 hours. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but it's 3 hours.
What did you say? What was your score on the plot?
9.
9, exactly.
Nice.
Well, yeah. I'm actually the same. I give it a 9. This has everything. It's epic to the full extent of the word. I mean, it's like you said, it starts off, you know, showing his childhood. It's got, you know, obviously it's based off the historical story, even though there are inaccuracies. There's a love story, you know what I'm saying? There's friendship, there's betrayal, you know, there's all this political stuff.
He sleeps with the princess.
He sleeps with the princess. I mean, come on.
He
there's an old like leper, you know, like monster character in here. I mean, it's got everything. And for 3 hours, you're intrigued the whole time. There wasn't any moment where I'm rolling my eyes.
Here's the thing, William Wallace.
That this movie had its own golem, like,
and then like at the very end, William Wallace claimed his right to prima nocta. All right.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way. Maybe you're right. Well, he had to, because that gentle prince wasn't about to do it.
That gentle son.
He was a little gentle.
Not too gentle, but
it's a dandy.
I think we all agree that, I mean, obviously plot wise, it's packed and it's delivered well. The pacing's well and everything. Let's hop into the overall production itself. Now, this movie's from 1995. This is almost 25 years old here, almost. But I mean, it's held up well. We just watched it this week here, and the movie looks great.
Looks fantastic.
We talked earlier about all the awards that it won in terms of just cinematography, makeup, everything that goes into play. One thing I'll touch on, and then I'll pass it off to you, Al, is the score. I love the music. I mean, as soon as you hear that music, it's like iconic now. You know right away. It just puts you in that place in that time.
Those outlaw bagpipes,
It was the punk rock of their day, bro.
It's the Elvis of their day. I'm glad you touched on the cinematography. That's what I was gonna get on. I love the sweeping shots of all the highlands.
Oh yeah,
like
so
it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful movie, and I loved everything about this movie. It was epic in scale. Production, production, perfect score, 20 out of 20, because of the sheer epicness of it, the huge. And all the extras, all the costumes, all the weaponry, all the battle scenes, that's a lot of hard things to reel in together, and they did it well. And so that's why I gave it a perfect 20 out of 20 for the production.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
I didn't give it a perfect score, pretty damn close. I gave it a 19. And you know what I really like about these movies, even done in 1995? There's no CGI. Well, maybe a couple. No, there's actually. It doesn't seem like there's any CGI.
I don't think there's any.
I mean, all locations are filmed and built, and they look like they've been there already. You know what I mean? Just that, for them taking their time on that level to develop weapons and a hell of a lot of kilts, and just the locations itself. It's a. I mean, if you think about it, that's a daunting task if you're behind it. For them to power through that, get that done in a movie.
Absolutely.
And keep it fluidly all the way through, dude. Production, you got to give these people props. They did a really good job.
And it didn't look like they were in costume. It looked like it looked very it looked very era specific. It didn't look like you were saying, it didn't look like they went to Spirit Halloween and grabbed yourself a kilt and
well, comparing to
what
was the movie we watched a couple months ago?
And just put it on.
Remember we watched Old Guard, and there was those
Yeah.
scenes where it's supposed to be like 1,000 years ago, and I was just like, she looked like she just got that from Party City. Like, what are you doing? Take that cheesy plastic helmet off. Like, come on, it doesn't totally fit at all.
Yeah. While this one, it looked gritty, it looked era
gritty, yeah.
specific,
And you know,
that's
the
why.
battle scenes. I mean, we got to touch on the battle scenes. I mean, they're
Mm.
just for that time too in 1995. I mean, they're just something done on that scale to look that well. They didn't look cheesy at all. I mean, you felt like you were there in the midst of this melee, and just the sounds, the brutality of it all. And from I can read it even in the notes here, they actually had to tone it down because some of the initial screenings they're saying it was too much.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there's a lot of action sequences in here, and like you said, Rich too. I mean, just the scale, right? You're talking about like I don't know how many people they had extras, 60, 70,
thousands.
Extras out there running around. And,
those weren't CGI'd in. Those were people.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, it's a great point. And horses, animals. I mean, to choreograph that all. I mean, and Mel Gibson, I think this is direct, his direct debut. That's
second.
Astonishing.
This is his second movie.
What was his
second? What was his first?
His first movie was Man Without a Face.
Oh, okay.
So definitely not a Braveheart.
No,
but
that's,
not a lot of extras. No battle scenes in Man Without a Face.
Yeah, it's a much different movie. But yeah, I mean, overall, I give it a 19. So I'm right there with you, Rich. I mean, there was a couple of like continuity goofs, like where people be like one position, and the next thing they're kind of like over here, or their hair is
you're splitting hairs.
Or where that one guy lit up a cigarette. I mean,
you're splitting hairs.
There was a number of them on there. Especially like you look in some of the show notes and stuff like that and on the movie. So, but honestly, at the same time, it's like none of them were ever really distracting. I've seen the movie probably now, like it feels like I've seen it at least 15 times.
Oh yeah.
And to this day, I'm not like saying like, oof, there's that. Oh, okay. It's just, and the movie's long too. So of course there's going to be certain things that are going to stand out.
This was 300 before 300, obviously. And 300,
honestly,
this was basically the prequel to The Patriot.
This movie
really
movie paved the way for action, violent, kind of the level of violence that they showed in the battle scenes. This movie kind of paved the way for future adventure movies and stuff and action.
Yeah, you could tell like a lot of other different movies took pieces of this movie as their own.
It kind of like it's like it pushed the limit.
The battle sequences. I can't think of another movie, and I mean I'm not the hugest historical film buff, but like you said, I feel like now any movie that's done even closely to this scale, like thinking about like the History Channel movie shows, right? They have to have that battle scene. That is
absolutely
the a la Braveheart, all beat in the park. We're gonna fight it out. So yeah,
it has to be
definitely influential. But let's get into the acting and these performances. And you know what? I'll go ahead and take it away.
The acting, well, I'll be remiss if I don't mention Mel Gibson right away, because I gave the acting 27 out of 30. Lion's share Mel Gibson, just his raw emotion in like a lot of these scenes carried like that scene easily. I'll mention a scene that I really liked was the betrayal of Robert the Bruce when they fought. The look on his face, it broke your heart. Like it broke my heart. Like when I first watched this, I was just like, and here's the thing, I've never forgiven Robert the Bruce ever since I first watched this movie when I was like 14, 15 years old. Never forgiven him.
A Judas.
Right? And Judas, like he mentioned it himself. And it was just an all-around great ensemble cast. Like Hamish Gleason, like young Gleason was great. Even Stephen, the crazy Irishman, great. So and like a prime Sophie Marceau, great.
Mm-hmm.
The Longshank, everybody. I don't think I didn't like any performance of anybody here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Rich, what about you?
I thought the acting was solid. I mean, you want to talk about Mel Gibson and emotion. What actor can portray so much emotion with hardly saying a fucking goddamn word? Like he just has those scenes where he looks and it's just like says so much. You know what I mean? He really carried the movie as far. No, I don't want to say he carried the movie because, like you said, there was a lot of good actors in this.
No, he carried this movie.
He kind of did. I mean, like you said, I hate to piggyback off what you're saying. His presence in the movie is so strong that you get so entwined and just like watching him go on his adventure. You know what I mean? And everybody's side character along was like his little sidekicks to tell the story.
Yeah.
But even them, they all fit in well. So, the dainty son kind of, even to this day, even still watching it, still kind of makes me cringe because he to me seems a little over the top. But
I don't think he was over the
that's
top.
why I only gave it a 27 though. It was
Well,
almost a full perfect score.
well, gentle son, flamboyant son. What do you think? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seemed a little much, but it did his point. It proved his point. It
Here's the
sold
thing.
it.
Well,
I mean, for that guy, for that actor, he did sell that role for a very weakling type of guy.
and he had to play that role in order for the princess's character and her role to make sense, because so much of her part is stepping up for him, right? Because the king's saying, like, I can't send my son,
Yeah.
so let's send the
Mhm.
princess. And then after that, he's like, why don't we send her again? Obviously, he has a rapport with her, so
Mhm.
he had to play that into a believable state to where you're like, yeah, don't send that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
he's like,
send her instead. Otherwise,
I
you'd be
can't.
like, why in your right mind would you send the princess? Like, it wouldn't make
Yeah,
sense to go meet
I
with a
can't
barbarian.
send. Like even Longshank, he's like, I can't send my gentle son
He couldn't
because
do it.
they'll eat him up, right?
Yeah.
Like that'll rile the troops up.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, overall for acting, for me, I give it a 29. I thought it was pretty dang
Nice.
near, you know, really perfect. Mel Gibson is the quintessential leading man, especially in this movie.
Yeah,
Carrie
absolutely.
does it all. He carries all the emotion. He gives the riling speech that we all
Oh,
know to this day. It's like we said in the beginning, it's a meme now. It's meme worthy. You know what I mean?
that
He does the love story part. He gets betrayed by the Bruce twice. You know what I mean?
oh,
I mean, and
eat that guy.
not just was Mel working, acting his ass off. His Adam's apple was working his ass off. Just throughout the whole movie, that thing is just bouncing up and down, just trying to convey the pure emotion. All right.
It's like
But
those hard swallowed gulps of
Yeah, just
nervousness.
exactly. Just that
yeah,
rock in your throat. He's just constantly in the second half of the movie just had this giant rock in his throat. He's just trying to swallow.
but I'm glad you mentioned the speech. Like I kind of really wanted to touch on that. Like obviously everyone knows the first rallying speech, freedom, like and all that. But a lot of his other little ad libs, like little monologues, were freaking great too. I wrote some down. Like, this one, every man dies, but not every man truly lives. That one was great. Like, what was another one? Something about peace, and then like being bought, and then but slaves are bought like that too. So I'm like, peace
Mhm.
is bought, and I was like, no, well, slaves are bought like that too. I'm like, man, that's great too. And then when he kind of talked in Latin, and then friend, he's like, yeah, I never lie, but I am a savage. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yes,
There was
that's
some
my
great
leader.
parts.
All right.
One
That is
thing
a good. That was a very good part. I like that part too.
I was saying before we started on too. One thing that's interesting to me watching it again is really, which is kind of it contradicts the high score that I gave it, but actually maybe shows how great the performances are. Is how little we really do know about these characters. When you start off the story with William, you don't know where his mother is. You never even know the name of the brother. They don't even say it, I don't think,
No.
unless I missed it. You talk about even Hamish's character, other than knowing that he's friends, childhood friends, you don't really know anything about the guy, any of his likes, interests, other than he's a big kind of burly dude. Um, and all these other guys, and we obviously know the setting, you know what I mean? And you follow the
Mhm.
arc, where he's kind of drawn out. At first he wants to just be left alone and start a family, and then he becomes this, obviously gets propelled to like this, this warrior and nobility. But really about the individuals themselves, you don't really know too much, but at the same time, you feel like you do. And I was even
Yeah.
thinking about Murren's character, you know, we don't really know anything about her other than she gives him a flower in the beginning of the movie, and then he comes back and confesses his love that he's always loved her, which is kind of
and
interesting.
For
But
a
at the
guy
same
who's
time,
been
when she
all
dies,
around the world,
exactly, and he's been all the way, yeah, exactly, he's been
yeah.
all around the world. He's like, man, that
And
flower.
how did
he's been to
how did he
Rome. You
yeah
know
how
what
did
happens in
he
Rome?
how did he preserve that flower so well
A lot of
after like
orgies.
decades? Like
Thanks,
I
Rich.
don't know. I don't know. But
Vomitoriums and orgies.
but I don't know.
And
I guess
gladiators.
it'll be. I think like I think it was going back to the whole raw emotion of like the story. That's what that made you latch onto these characters, even though, like you said, you don't really know a lot of background to them. Like it would have been great if there was ever a prequel to young William Wallace's like adventures throughout the world with his uncle Argyle,
Yeah,
because that would have been cool. But it's just a raw emotion. Like yeah, you didn't know anything about Murray, but when she got killed, you're like, oh,
yeah,
oh no, why?
yeah.
And but yeah, you didn't know anything about Hamish, like this
Well, I
crazy
like what
Irish
you touched on
guy.
a second ago. You talked about Argyle. I mean, how interesting is this character? He comes in, dressed differently than everybody else. He's obviously like a man of the world.
Hmm.
He's missing an eye, and then he kind of hints about the childhood with the dad, saying, "Oh, they lost their dad too." So even him, you're just like, oh, well, man, like you said, they could easily do a prequel just talking about that story.
Yeah,
And I'm guaranteed it'd be interesting.
Oh, it'd
yeah,
be cool.
yeah. We don't need no sequel with that. I hate Robert the Bruce. They made a sequel for that guy. God damn it.
Like I said, I think for what he had to do and be, I think he played it well. You know, he is that character. He's just kind of the spoiled rich kid who wants to be that alpha,
He's a
like in
beta.
front of the crowd guy, but it's just not him.
No, he's not a. He's a beta. He wants to be William Wallace's alpha, but he's not it.
You can't. Yeah.
Even when he tried to be it, like at the very end. No, screw you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Even Hamish is
He's
like,
there because you
even
betrayed
Hamish is
him.
like, he needs some help, and he goes and just throws the sword.
Yeah, it's just like, all right.
All right. Well, let's get into the directing on this one. Again, you know, more Mel Gibson here. We talked about it already. This is a very big story, long story, and it's covering a lot of historical parts. It's developed almost into like this modern mythos. There's a lot going on here. But I mean, it's handled well. I mean, it won Best Director, and I would say rightly so. It's just a great movie. And even watching it back now, it's aged well for me. Let me see here. Overall, I gave it a 27. I would
Nice.
end up giving
I
it.
gave very close. I gave it a 28. It was well paced, and I always harp about like how long a movie is, but this movie was 3 hours, and it didn't drag at all.
Mhm.
And like I think, and Rich was saying that even if they cut out some pieces of it, it would take away from the movie.
Yeah.
So it was like I think perfect length, even though it was 3 hours, it passed really quick. And I gave it such a high score too because it was such a big undertaking. And like I said, this was like his second movie as a director, and the first movie that he directed was nowhere near to this scope.
No.
So the way he wrangled everything in, and you said rightfully so that he won best like director for this movie. And yeah, man, this movie was great. I love this movie. I can't gush enough about this movie.
Rich, what do you think?
Nice. The directing, it was solid. I mean, honestly, Mel Gibson. I thought this was his debut, but I'd never even heard of the first one. Even for him being his second, like director and producer on this, I believe he was. It's dude, he did a solid job. That's a huge undertaking for your second role to pull this off. I didn't give it a high score like you guys, 25, only because it's going to be a factual thing. William Wallace was actually a noble. He was a lesser noble class.
Mhm.
They didn't have to make him part of the peasantry and people thing. I think I don't think it would have taken away from the story. Minor gripe, minor fact gripe. But even if he was just a minor noble and he fought for the people's freedom, I think that even holds a strong message in itself too. Other than a peasantry rising, peasant rebellion to take on.
Yeah,
the
I'll
king.
agree. I mean, that's what kind of actually ended up taking me down a little bit. And I mean, I didn't go down much. I give it 27, but there is, and I was kind of going back and forth with this, like debating. There is a number of like historical inaccuracies, and I would probably let that go. I mean, this movie doesn't try to portray itself as, it doesn't even
Historically
say,
accurate.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not a
historically
doc,
accurate.
you
You know,
know.
it doesn't say this is a documentary or anything, or even say this is inspired by true events. It just says it's telling this story. So I don't want to like harp on it too much, but they did do a number of things. I mean, even the story we're talking about his wife, that never happened. Earlier we touched on the Prima, Nocti, that obviously was not carried out as well. There's a number of things. Even Robert the Bruce, his portrayal in this movie versus his real life portrayal, I guess that was
Yeah.
some controversy.
Robert the Bruce is a
in Scotland to this
badass in real
day.
life.
Yeah,
In all
and
honesty.
so that combined with even like a movie we did earlier in the year, The Patriot, where we knew that again, Gibson did that movie too, and there was a number of like historical inaccuracies where they kind of embellish things. I don't know that he needed to do it, but I can't say that
It doesn't ruin the
it
story.
doesn't ruin the story, but I still am conscious of it, so it kind of bugs me just
Yeah,
a little bit.
just-
So I had to knock it down just a tad because I was just like,
Well, here's the thing. I didn't knock it down a tad because one, I love freedom. So apparently you guys don't. So I don't care. I don't care what little historical blips are like being removed or added on this. I don't care. It's about the message, guys, and that message is freedom.
says every sheep out there.
I don't know.
all right. Well,
I'm about to wage war against Rich right now.
you guys want to meet out in the park and just battle it out?
Oh,
battle it out.
one more thing. The first battle. William Wallace's first battle, that historical battle that actually got him knighted. It was Stirling Bridge. he fought on a bridge. Like it was almost 300 style. That's how they were able to kick the English's ass, because they fought him on the bridge and they held him to a point. I think that would kind of made a cool battle scene too. I mean,
well, guess
maybe
what? That didn't have the poles, all right? That didn't have him yelling
couldn't do the
hold
pole.
like 10
Hold.
times.
Oh, you know what, Al?
Hold.
You're right. You couldn't take
Hold.
out, because that whole scene where the cavalry has never failed. That never would have happened.
Exactly. Heavy
Yeah.
armored cavalry has never lost a battle or whatever, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So-
Good point. Good point. Like
there's
I said,
there's a number of
doesn't
things we
take
could touch
anything
on.
away.
Like I said, I don't want to take away from it because it's a great movie, but I would be lying if I said that didn't kind of stick in my mind a little bit, you know. But it's a great movie. Like I said, overall, I give it 27. That's one of the higher scores I've ever given for directing. And just, like we said, to say this is his second movie he ever did, I mean, it's pretty outstanding.
Pretty damn good.
But let's
Yeah.
start to wrap this up a little bit here. And I mean, obviously, we all really like this movie. Let's get into X Factor. Let me see here. Get my notes out on this one here. I ended up giving it a 9. Really, I'm just really surprised. Well, I'm lying. I'm not surprised. The movie aged great, and I still enjoyed it, and it's still inspiring, and I still even get emotionally like distraught watching the end when you see him get, like, tortured at the end. And I'm still kind of surprised. Like, I've seen this movie multiple times, and it's still
what's going to happen.
And not to mention, it's modern mythos now. I mean, it's meme worthy. You know what I mean? I mean, we can't underestimate the kind of impact this movie has had even on the culture. So I give it a 9. I think it's just a great movie. I really enjoyed it. Al, I think I know what you gave, Al, but why don't you go ahead and tell us?
I gave it a 10. Is that a surprise?
Is it for freedom?
I wrote it right here, buddy. Freedom. All right. Well, that and one, it was one of my this was my favorite movie as a kid for a long time. A long time. Multiple watch when when it first came out and all that.
And you went to Scotland, right, and reenacted the events of this movie?
I have been to Scotland, and I did meet William Wallace. It was a dude dressed as William Wallace for tourists in front of Edinburgh Castle, but I did meet William Wallace and got the kilt on and everything. And I've been to the Highlands too. All right, sucker. And and you know, the freedom, and it really left impression on me when I was young, to like, not to get too, you know, emotional here, but it's just to stick by your convictions, stick to what's right, and just keep fighting for it, guys.
He's a worthy hero. I mean, it's true. You know, whether it's completely historically accurate or not, the ideal of it is what I think resonates, especially for us. And like we were talking about here in America, where liberty is held at such a high esteem, like for us, it's just, you know,
absolutely,
you know, it hits us deep.
Yeah, you have to stick by your convictions. You have to stick to what's right and fight evil. All right, guys, and just keep fighting until the and keep fighting until the bitter end. All right, stick to it. Well, what I'm saying is recount the votes. All right, there, I said it.
Audit the votes.
I said it.
All right,
it was like you were right there.
All right, there, I said it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to get political, but we got to audit the votes. All right.
I'm just surprised you didn't show up with half your face painted blue.
I thought you maybe were.
All right, I'm about to go fly to Washington D.C. right now and like do a speech like on a horse. All right, trying to rally the troops here.
Yep, we don't need no Robert the Bruces right now. All right, we need a bunch of Mel Gibsons.
We need a bunch of William Wallaces right now recounting the votes in Arizona. All right,
where is Mel Gibson?
Jeez.
Rich, let's bring it in. Yeah. You're our own baby Hamish.
Yeah, that's hard to fucking
back up your
follow
boy
up,
right now.
But I gave it an 8 just for.
Man, that's it.
That's it. I mean, that's pretty damn high, but I gave it for it changing the fact that it changed movies in the direction of the way action movies. It gave action movies a lot of liberty to start messing around with. They pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable to the audience within that R rating, and then it just kind of soared from there. A lot of movies took off from there, and action movies became real action movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was already action movies already at that time. I mean, this is during the time of Schwarzenegger and all these guys doing this. Absolutely. But I would say to this scale, right? This kind of epic scale. It definitely changed things in doing it. But I guess the only thing I'm really surprised is because I know how much of like a history guy you are, that I thought maybe that would have more of an impact, but I guess not. Maybe it was the historical inaccuracies rubbed you a little wrong.
No, it's just an 8. It's hard for me to give a perfect X score. I mean, What would
I
give
do.
for Van
I do it
score?
all the
Great
time.
movie, held up in time.
Yeah, I'll do it for you. He's like, here you go, 12. I raised my score to make up yours.
All right, I'm making it up for Rich. I give it a 12 out of 10. All right.
But honestly, as much as a history buff as I am, it didn't bother me a lot. As it, normally I watch the movies and they're like, oh, based on true events, and I watch it, I'm like, based on what fucking true events? Something you read in the Reader's Digest,
Like the Avengers, right?
Avengers was based on.
All right, so let's get into it. We gotta wrap it up here. We're running long, gushing over this movie. Total scores, guys. Let's go. Al, what's your total score?
Highest rated ever from any episode, 95 out of 100.
95. There you go.
Damn near because freedom, guys.
Because
all right,
freedom,
you got to
that's why.
stick to what's right.
Yeah, attaboy. All right, Rich, would you give it?
88.
Oh,
88,
God
okay.
damn you, Rich.
Very solid. Not too high, not too low. Just right
Not
there.
too low, historically inaccurate, and 8 and 8 next to each other looks really good.
Oh, okay.
Richard would betray William Wallace. All right.
I wouldn't put it past me.
All right. Well, I give it a 93. I think this
Attaboy.
is the highest score.
That is the highest score movie you've ever
so.
given.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this movie on multiple levels. I liked it, aged well, still has impact, for what it is, and definitely enjoyed doing it, and especially doing right now during election season and all this craziness is going on. It was pretty cool to see this, and embellishments aside, you can't deny the impact.
Oh no,
absolutely.
Right? So
Great
it was
movie.
great. It was. I enjoyed doing this movie. Not every movie we've done so far, we've enjoyed it. I'm sure it's shown on some of them, and this one actually was a lot of fun. So. Yeah. Anybody else have any ending points before we call it a wrap?
No, man. That's about it. I got my rant a little bit out, even though I kind of reeled myself in. I didn't want to go full Alex Jones. And yeah, let's call this a wrap, guys. Best reviewed movie so far.
To freedom.
You sure it's not going to need a recount?
It might. Freedom.
We're gonna recount our scores. Cheers, everybody.
Final score in development. Hold on.